days at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers Cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback podcast time. Welcome to the show, everyone. 49ers have a big test against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense presents some interesting challenges. And yes, I know they haven't just been blowing, the roof off. They haven't been scoring all kinds of points. Like, I get it. But they still have plenty of weapons, and they have a young stud in Emeka Egbuka who is really coming on the scene, and he's starting to make some big plays. He showed up and showed out against Seattle, and I get it. Seattle missing a couple of cornerbacks, so we know how that is. In San Francisco, you're missing weapons, and then all of a sudden, teams can take advantage of you. So I understand that. But Baker Mayfield is playing some of the best football that I have seen from Baker Mayfield. I mean, this dude is on pace right now to be in the conversation to be a MVP. I mean, that's kind of where he's riding right now. You just take a look at his numbers, and he's, not his completion percentage is not what it was last year. Last year, he was over 70%. He was a guy that was so good being accurate. But this year, 65.1%, still very good. 1,283 yards, 10 touchdowns to 1 interception. I think that is the biggest thing. He's taking care of the football, still maintains his Baker Mayfield ability to extend plays, be a gunslinger, take shots down the field, and yet not turn over the football. And he's been doing it over the last couple weeks without Mike Evans. So Baker Mayfield is kind of really come into his own in this offense. He understands what he's supposed to do, and he presents some interesting challenges for the San Francisco 49ers. 49ers just win against a really good quarterback in, last week against Matthew Stafford. Stafford was able to somewhat pick that defense apart. Now, it didn't yield a lot of rewards. There wasn't a lot of points scored by the Los Angeles Rams. They did get 23, but it's not like they blew the door off the San Francisco 49ers defense. It was tough sledding for them. But Baker Mayfield's definitely been playing well. Now, the one difference between him and Matthew Stafford is Baker Mayfield takes chances and has been sacked more. So the 49ers have an opportunity there, but what kind of pressure are they going to be able to generate? So far, the San Francisco 49ers defense has really slowed down when it comes to their effectiveness getting after the quarterback because of the injury to Nick Bosa. It kind of changed the game. And now you have an injury to Yetur Gross-Matos, who also provided some interior pass rush. So now the 49ers defensive line is undertaking a new makeup. And yes, they're bringing in guys for workouts, and they're probably going to sign somebody to the practice squad. Probably by the time you listen to this, they will have signed somebody to the practice squad. But make no mistake, they are going to have to get there with who they have right now, because no one that they bring in is going to add to this football team right now. Tevis Gibson is more likely going to help. Maybe Robert Beal Jr. will be back to practice. He was working on a side field on Monday during bonus practice. But there's no clear, definitive answers for the 49ers pressure-wise. And that's one of the problems with stopping this Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense. So I really want to get into why this is such a test for the 49ers. And they had a big test last week. Devontae Adams, Matthew Stafford, Puka Nacua, Kyron Williams. I get it. But this week is some more unique challenges. And I think the 49ers are going to have to come up with some answers. Robert Saleh, Fred Warner, what are you going to do this time? Right now, it's just find ways to win. Can you find a way to beat a really good Tampa Bay Buccaneers football team on the road? Their only loss is to Philly. So they have been playing really good this season. Got to give them a lot of respect. And I think the 49ers know that. They plan on going in there. And if they can do what they've done the last couple of years and get a win against the Bucks, it would be a huge win. And once again, another conference win. 49ers stacking those. That's why they're number one in the NFC. So thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you're listening on audio platform, 49ers Cutback on Believe Network, please give it a 5-star rating if you feel like I deserve it. Of course, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. They're the title sponsor of 49ers Cutback. Now, I want to start with Baker Mayfield, because I think Baker Mayfield presents the biggest challenge for the 49ers. When you just look at what he's been doing this season, he's kind of ramped it up. Early in the season, it was a slow start against Atlanta. It feels like every week he just gets a little bit better. Last week against the Seahawks, 29 of 33, over 300 yards, throwing touchdowns, hitting Sterling Shepard on that big one down the stretch. He just looks like he's getting more and more confident in this offense, and a big reason why is the young guy, Emeka Egbuka. Mike Evans has been out, and the likelihood is Mike Evans is not going to play in this game. But we'll let this thing play out through the week, see what happens. But it looks like Emeka Egbuka is going to continue to be the number one target for Baker Mayfield. Now, they don't just have Emeka Egbuka. They have Chris Godwin as well. And, of course, he's come back from the injury, and I think he's still getting his legs back underneath him. But this is still Chris Godwin. He can still make catches, strong hands, has a tendency to drop the ball at times, but he's formidable. He's a guy that you have to make sure you pay attention to. Have to know where he's at. He can use his body. He's really good at using his arms to be able to create separation. So he's not going to be an easy matchup either. So Emeka Egbuka, Chris Godwin, those two guys for sure are some weapons. I brought up Sterling Shepard earlier, and Sterling Shepard is just a guy that finds areas on the field to get open. He's really good at sitting down in zone. He's really comfortable with kind of finding locations where he can nestle in and be open, a good feel for coverage, and good feel in the red zone. That is one area where he continues to be effective. And so you look at that, they have enough weapons. Now, last week they used Tez Johnson a little bit, and that guy is absolutely crazy in space. He's got a lot of speed and athleticism, very small stature. You're talking a guy that's like 155 pounds. He is small, very Xavier Worthy when it comes to body style, except Worthy got that speed to be able to press vertical more than Tez. Tez is more of a short area quickness guy. So that's something to watch as well. And then probably one of the biggest weapons the 49ers will have to pay attention to as well is Cade Otton. Cade Otton continues to be a very significant tight end in the NFL. He was really good in Washington since he's come to Tampa Bay. Been successful. He gets better every year, and he's going to present some interesting obstacles for this 49ers defense as well. Now, when it comes to running back, I brought up Mike Evans, that he might not play in this game. Adam Schefter's reporting that Bucky Irvin's not going to play in this game, and Bucky Irving is the most explosive, most talented running back that Tampa Bay has, and he has been a problem for the 49ers. Last year, he really got going, and when he did, the 49ers were struggling to stop the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense. So Bucky Irving being out is actually a welcome sign for the 49ers defense, one less element they have to worry about. But it's not like Rachaad White can't get it done, and Rachaad White can run successfully. He looked good last week, especially on the outside toss plays that Tampa Bay was running to take advantage of the edge of the Seattle Seahawks defense. I thought they did a really good job with that. And also, Rachaad White's effectiveness in the passing game is something else that is important. He made some impact against the 49ers last year, catching the football. He caught a screen over the middle, was able to get it into the end zone for a touchdown. He's been pretty good. So we're seeing an offense that has weapons kind of all over the place. And yeah, it's not their top flight weapons, right? 49ers are missing guys too. Tampa Bay makes no excuses. They just go out and they score, 38 points against the Seattle Seahawks defense. And I get it, banged up defense, but nevertheless, you're still scoring, 35 plus points on a pretty good, as far as the number 2 EPA defense in the entire league heading into last week. So very talented. So Baker Mayfield, the reason he presents some interesting challenges is, number one, I think it's the improvisation. You think you have Baker Mayfield fooled. You have the coverage. It's everybody's tight in coverage. You have the pass rush bearing down on him. And he finds a way to get out. And when he does, he finds a receiver downfield for an explosive play. And I think that's one of the most frustrating things for a defense. You do everything right, and then the quarterback comes out and makes a play, and that is what Baker Mayfield provides. There's also no hesitation in Baker Mayfield to take a shot at 50-50 balls, which is why I'm the most surprised that he's 10 touchdowns to 1 interception. But that's just the growth of Baker Mayfield and the growth of his receiving core. You had Emeka Ibuka, and that's a very talented guy. You get Chris Godwin healthy, and you give him more weapons. Cade Otton continues to develop as a solid tight end. And so you get that improvisational skills, which provides an interesting dilemma for the 49ers. You need to generate pass rush on Baker Mayfield. But can you blitz Baker Mayfield? Baker Mayfield has been pretty good against the blitz in his career. Now, not as good as Matthew Stafford, who is absolutely elite, and he did cause problems for the 49ers last week when they decided to blitz him. But the problem is, if you give Baker Mayfield too much time, he's going to hit you with an explosive play down the field. The 49ers have a pass rush issue. They have Bryce Huff, and Bryce Huff continues to do really well when it comes to rushing the passer. Their next best pass rusher was Yetur Gross-Matos. Now that he's dealing with the hamstring strain and he's going to be out, who is going to provide that pass rush you need? Sam Okuwanu did okay last week. Never got home, but did generate a little bit of pressure. I think he's definitely in the mix. But then when you look at the interior defensive line, you're going to have Mikael Williams rushing from the inside. He does a good job, but you're missing that guy that unlocked it. Yetur Gross-Matos unlocked it. You had Bosa, you had Gross-Matos, those guys unlocked it. So the question is going to be, does Robert Saleh run a risk of coming after Baker Mayfield and him being able to generate, create off schedule and make something happen downfield? Can you potentially give up an explosive play to Baker Mayfield to try to generate pressure? And I think that is the catch-22 the 49ers are in right now. They can't address a edge rusher via trade right now, right? Most teams are still not willing to make a move. We did see one go yesterday. Baltimore was willing to send away to the Chargers. So it's not like it's out of the question. But even if you made a trade today, the likelihood of that player being able to help your team on Sunday, probably not going to happen. Now, I mean, they'll definitely get out there. They could probably give you 15 to 20 snaps in pass rush situations. You could do it. But I'm saying the likelihood is probably very minuscule. So 49ers are in a situation where they're going to have to bring pressure on Baker Mayfield using a fifth defender, whether that's a linebacker, a defensive back. Jason Pennick is a really good blitzer. Upton Stout has proven to be a pretty good blitzer. D. Winters. Fred Warner, of course. But you're going to have to figure out how to get home to Baker Mayfield. The problem is you also can't allow Baker Mayfield to squeak out. You can't allow him to get out in the open where he can create something down the field. So this is going to be one of those dynamics I'm interested to see from Robert Saleh and for Fred Warner, how they kind of play the cat and mouse game with Baker Mayfield. Now, I do expect for Robert Saleh to dial it up. I think if he was willing to dial it up against the Rams last week with Matthew Stafford, he's one of the elite quarterbacks against the blitz, with them having Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams, he's going to let it roll this week. And so I expect 5- and 6-man pressures from Robert Saleh in key situations, and they're just going to have to hope that they can get Baker Mayfield, to get his eyes on the pass rush and not, continue to look downfield and hit his hot route. But he's been pretty good about getting rid of the football. Matthew Stafford is the fastest getting rid of the football in the league, but Baker Mayfield last year was at 2.5 seconds, and he continues to be one of those guys that gets rid of the ball quickly. That's what presents a lot of the problems for this 49ers defense is twofold. Either they play off and the quarterback gets rid of the football quickly and it kind of, makes it easy on them in first and second down, or the pass rush doesn't get there and the quarterback has all day and then he has 4.5 seconds like Matthew Stafford did to hit Tutu Atwell downfield. And Baker Mayfield last week was more than willing to go downfield to Emeka Ibuka, and Ibuka kept getting open. And Ibuka is going to be a little bit of a problem. So we're going to talk about him too. But I think this is one of those things. Saleh's got to bring pressure. They've got to make sure they're on point when it comes to their rotation with coverage off of pressure. That yielded a touchdown last week to Kyren Williams. You had some breakdowns in coverage with Upton Stout, and expect that to happen again. They're going to go after Upton Stout. They're going to go after the young players for the 49ers and really try to get something going in the passing game there. And I think that one thing the 49ers can do to make things a little bit easier for them is slow down the Tampa Bay Buccaneers run game. Now, I talked about Bucky Irving being out, so it does make it a little bit easier because Bucky Irving, make no mistake, is the lead back. He's the number one guy for this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team, and he's good, really good. The vision, the speed, the explosiveness, he's got it. He can also catch the ball in the backfield. He gets in the open field. He's nasty. He's one of the better running backs in this league. But Rachaad White, not so much in that way. Now, if he has a hole, he's going to get downhill quickly. He's going to get vertical, and he's going to get positive yards. He's a big back. He's a physical back. You have to make sure you tackle well against Rachaad White. But you lose a little bit of the dynamics when it comes to what Bucky Irving provides you, especially when it comes to the second level elusiveness and that ability to cut and go. And so the 49ers really need to put an emphasis on slowing down Tampa Bay's running game, because if Baker Mayfield and this Tampa Bay Buccaneers run game, if they're able to get this run game going, Buccaneers are going to have a field day on offense because it's going to open things up for that passing game. They're going to be able to get the ball to Cade Otton because linebackers are stepping up. They're going to have to be more aggressive and bring a second safety in the box. And so that means that Baker Mayfield can take shots on Emeka Egbuka, that they can find matchups they like and be able to take advantage of Chris Godwin against Upton Stout. So it's imperative that the 49ers slow down this Buccaneers run game. And the Buccaneers run game hasn't been spectacular this year, but they've been better than the 49ers run game. They're averaging 110 yards per game on the ground right now. Now, I think Bucky Irvin's a big reason why. Last week against Seattle, the run game wasn't as effective. So I look for Tampa Bay to try to get a run game going because they do want to have more of a balanced offense and they want to be able to win the time of possession. But the 49ers are going to be built more for stopping the run than rushing the passer this week. You look at the defensive line, they lose Kalia Davis. Kalia Davis has the ability to create havoc up front. Without him, they're going to have to rely on a young guy. So it's likely going to be Jordan Elliott starting next to Alfred Collins. Alfred Collins is a big run stopper. We know this. He's a guy that can play two gaps. So the 49ers are going to be stout against the run, especially early. And I think that's the question mark is what do they do when it comes to pass time? I think Jordan Elliott could stay on the field, and you could go with Mikael Williams and Bryce Huff and Sam Okuwanu. I think that would work. You could go with Travis Gibson sometimes as well on the outside, but I do think you lose that extra defensive defensive edge rusher that moves inside unless they decide to go Okuwanu in that area and Gibson outside. We'll see. We'll see what they ultimately try to do. But that means that your rotation at defensive tackle goes to CJ West, and then it potentially goes to an elevation off the practice squad. I think it's very likely the 49ers are going to elevate Evan Anderson. So Jordan Jefferson, who they had claimed off waivers, when then waived, Evan Anderson. Anderson's on the practice squad. Jefferson got waived now, and he got claimed by the Bengals. So he's not on the 49ers anymore. So it's likely going to be Evan Anderson. It's between him and Sebastian Gutierrez. I think it's going to be him. Now, they did work out some more guys. They did work out some more defensive tackles. There's a opportunity for them to sign a D-end and a defensive tackle, and maybe they'll bring one of those guys up because a couple of those guys were with them during the offseason. So there is a chance that could happen. So the 49ers had to work out, and I'll talk about who these guys were that they worked out along the defensive line because I think it's important. A couple of familiar names: Shaquille Brown, Michael Dwumafor, Bruce Hector. Those are all inside guys. They also worked out, Jonathan Garvin, who was with the team last year, Jaw Joyner, who was with Minnesota, and then Demarcus Walker, who's been around the league for a while, former Florida State guy. So he's a bigger defensive end that can kind of move inside. So they definitely worked out some guys that, Bruce Hector was with the team. I thought he played well during preseason. Bruce Hector could be one of those guys they look at. So I think it's interesting, what they do on that interior, but I think they're built more, especially if Evan Anderson comes up. They're built more to stop the run this week. Your pass rushers when it comes to defensive tackle are pretty much Jordan Elliott and CJ West. I think Alfred Collins is getting better, but you're probably going to have to rely on your defensive ends. Maybe Robert Bill Jr. Will be available, and you could put him out there as well. But pass rush is definitely going to be a little bit of a problem for the 49ers this week, but that's why it's so important to stop the run. If you stop the run of Rachaad White and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and turn this into a game where it is 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8 against Baker Mayfield, that's your best chance, because then you can blitz him, make him get rid of the football extremely quickly, and tackle in front of the sticks. It could be effective. And the thing is, this Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense is not real good in the red zone. They just haven't been great all season. So their red zone offense is at 47%. They kicked field goals early against Seattle. And so it's not terrible, but it's not really that good. And the 49ers defense is 8th best in the NFL inside the red zone and not allowing touchdowns. So pretty good stuff from the 49ers so far in the red zone. That's going to be a big key. Stop the run and then be able to blitz, bring 5, bring 6 against Baker Mayfield. But you got to make sure you get home or that you rush his throw so you can make a tackle in time. Now, if you're going to bet with FanDuel. Right now, the 49ers are a 3-point underdog to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We all know that is a good thing. So if you feel like the 49ers are going to win this game, it's a good opportunity to put money on them. The money line is plus 130 for the 49ers and minus 154 for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And the over-under is at 47.5 for this game. So if you're going to bet with FanDuel, lots of cool same-day parlays. They're going to have player props. You can bet anytime touchdowns, who scores first. Lots of things you can do by using FanDuel. Now, I want to talk about Emeka Egbuka. And I think that their 49ers are going to have to pay attention to him. And over on Patreon, I do a show with Jay Hill, and he was very concerned about Emeka Egbuka, and so much so that he said he thinks the 49ers should go with Deommodore Lenoir, mirroring and shadowing Emeka Egbuka wherever he goes. And I don't think the 49ers are going to do that. I know we've seen them do that with Charvarius Ward in the past, but I think they feel really confident with the 49ers' current cornerback room of Deommodore Lenoir and Renardo Green. And the reason I say that is last week, you're going against 2 bona fide stud wide receivers in Puka Nacua, who may be the best wide receiver in football right now, and Devontae Adams, who's going to be a Hall of Famer as soon as he decides that he's done playing. And they were willing to let Renardo Green cover those guys, and I thought he did a pretty good job. Renardo Green played well last week. It was better matchups. We've talked about the guys who give him problems are those guys that are really quick in and out of their breaks. The guys that can float on air, the Chris Olave type guys. That those guys are more difficult. The bigger guys that, can't really press you vertically as much, but are good route runners. Like, he's okay. The problem with Emeka Egbuka is I think he's kind of a mixture of both, where he's really good at getting in and out of his breaks and running good routes and clean and crisp routes. But is also kind of a bigger physical, or guy can play big and physical. Can also be a possession receiver. So I think that this is a unique challenge for the 49ers. I do, however, believe Deommodore Lenoir and Renardo Green are up for the challenge. I think it's going to be a battle all day. I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers would like to get Emeka Egbuka on Upton Stout or Chase Lucas. I think that those are matchups that they like even better. But I think that's also a matchup they like for Chris Godwin, where he's a lot bigger than Upton Stout. Upton Stout is not afraid to deal with physicality, same with Chase Lucas, but it definitely gives them an advantage when you're talking about Godwin's size compared to the 49ers' smaller nickel corners. But Egbuka is really the supreme threat when it comes to getting vertical down the field. Mike Evans would be that guy, and boy, would that be an extra obstacle if it was Mike Evans and Emeka Egbuka the way he's playing, and Chris Godwin and Sterling Shepard. That's when you start running into circumstances. And how much safety help are you going to be able to give your cornerbacks when they have to also deal with Cade Otton? And Cade Otton is going to, present himself well. He's going to make some catches. He's going to get some yards. He's got the ability to kind of roll. If he gets going, he can make some plays. So dealing with Emeka Egbuka is going to be difficult for the 49ers. But I think they have the guys that can do it if they play, the way that they're supposed to. Now, the 49ers, we know what they're going to do. They're going to run a quarter shell. That's what they run more than any other team in the NFL. And They're going to try to keep everything underneath, not allow any of the big shots down the field, which they did really well last week, minus the 1 to Tutu Atwell. 49ers were taking a chance, and that's where the 49ers run the risk. It's Emeka Ibuka having a big play when they have to bring 5 or 6 guys on a blitz to get after Baker Mayfield. That not yielding the rewards or hurrying Baker Mayfield enough and him having an opportunity to take advantage of one of the 49ers safeties deep down the field. Because right now, I don't think it's clear who the 49ers are going to have at safety this week. Marquis Siegel and Jason Pennick have been handling the job. They've been doing a good job. Siegel struggling a little bit in coverage, still one of the best tacklers at safety the 49ers have had in a long time. Very good. But Malik Mustafa has re-entered the mix. And, if Malik Mustafa is ready to go, I don't know why the 49ers wouldn't put him out there. But the question will be, is it going to be Malik and Pennick, or is it going to be Malik and Siegel? I don't think they would activate Malik Mustafa and then not put him on the field and go with Siegel and Pennick. I don't think they would do that. So that is going to be a big question mark. But that's also one of the obstacles of dealing with Emeka Ibuka if you're bringing a blitz, is sometimes you're going to get that look where you get your free safety one-on-one with Emeka Ibuka down the field. And if you don't get home, that coverage has got to be good. And we saw Tutu Atwell kind of run away from Marquis Siegel, and Siegel's a 4-3 guy. So I think that's a little bit of a concern for the 49ers. And then with Cade Otton, you've been putting Marquis Siegel on these tight ends, right? Against the Rams, Terrence Ferguson one-on-one. Terrence Ferguson was able to get the win over Siegel. We've seen Jawan Johnson do that for New Orleans. We've seen, in week 3, Arizona, getting it done with their tight end as well. Oh, I just went blank on his name, but they have just been consistently dealing with tight ends, and Marquis Siegel's been having to deal with it. And so, Trey McBride, I just remembered his name. Just dealing with these guys over and over. And the test is here again with Otton. Now, Otton, he's not going to threaten you vertically the way that a guy like Trey McBride can, right? Or a guy like Terrence Ferguson. Like, those guys do have a little bit more when it comes to throttle. They can get going a little bit, hit the gas, and run past you. But Cade Otton is a big target. He's very physical, and he's got strong hands. So, you've seen that one last week with Ferguson. The ball is there. His hand is there. He's got a chance to knock it away. He just can't get it done. So this is one of the things I think the 49ers are looking at. So if Marquis Siegel's not playing, if they go with Malik Mustafa, I think it's likely that Jason Pennick will handle all those roles and be in coverage against those tight ends. We've seen Malik do it some last year, and I'm sure there'll be opportunities for him to do it. But when you look at Pennick, the way he was drafted as a nickel corner coming out of college, I think it does give the 49ers an interesting element where he could play free, and then you let Malik play strong safety, and he can kind of come up in the box when necessary. He could be that guided missile. I am looking forward to the day when Malik Mustafa and Marquis Siegel play together because, number one, those two dudes are great tacklers. Number two, they fly up after the ball carrier better than any of the safeties the 49ers have had over the last couple of years. So I am interested to see that. But I think what it also does provide, and you might see it in this game, is opportunities for big nickel. If Malik Mustafa plays, I think they could go with a big nickel of Marquis Siegel playing instead of Jair Brown. Because Marquis Siegel did play some nickel corner in college as well. So I think that then you get a faster, a better tackler, a more effective player in coverage. And so I think that there's an opportunity that you could go some 3 safety looks. They've done it here and there. I think this is another week that you could do it. It's good matchups for Marquis Siegel, especially against a bigger tight end and Cade Otton, a bigger receiver and Chris Godwin. I think those kind of give you some opportunities. Also, you can start blitzing Marquis Siegel off the edge sometimes. So I think that there's a lot that the 49ers can do, but it's all going to come down to Baker Mayfield. And I think Baker Mayfield is going to put pressure on the 49ers. But I do think that they can get this done if they are effective slowing down the run game, if they slow down Emeka Ibuka, and if they're able to generate pressure on Baker Mayfield. If they can do it with 4, the 49ers have a really good chance to slow down the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense a lot. If they have to use 5 or 6, I think it's going to be hit or miss. I think sometimes you'll get to Baker, sometimes you won't. And with all things, just don't let him escape the pocket. Don't allow him to use his improvisational skills to create outside the pocket and generate big plays down the field. Those are the backbreaker moments, and that's how they tied the game up last year, right? Bosa running with them. He throws the ball, completes it to Rachaad White, and then next thing you know, they're kicking a game-tying field goal. So it's just something that he does. So this is going to be a big test for the 49ers. Different weapons than what they dealt with last week, a more predominant tight end. But I think they can be up for the task. I think that if they can get a little bit of pass rush, they'll be okay. So thanks for watching, everyone. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I really appreciate it. You're listening audio platform, 49ers Cutback on Believe Network. Please give it a 5-star rating. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Until then, stay safe. Remember, the right way is always the 49ers way.